it one hell of a show.
So I wanted to chime in about the whole thing about YouTube videos being demonetized and age restricted when it comes to drug videos.
Because more and more of my videos have been getting age restricted. Okay, so it's been 2 videos that have been removed and I've received a strike.
It was literally, I go through and remove these videos, I mean the ones that I think are questionable, or 100% for sure my account was going to be removed.
It's not like I was anywhere close to that territory, but yeah, almost all of my videos by now have been either demonetized or age restricted.
What most people agree on is that age restricted videos are not that bad. You know, when it's about this topic, it's hard because sometimes, you know, you want to tell kids also about like how you should actually handle drugs. On the other hand, I think it's really odd for certain of these videos to be striked, and I just wanted to sort of give my opinion on this. What's needed is sort of that we change the whole conversation about drugs in general, because you got to remember the whole conversation about drugs is completely warped, and you're doing nothing wrong, you're only doing good things, and it's just going to be a gigantic long fight to be able to change all this. I had to think about this graph by David Nutt. He's a researcher in the UK. David Nutt came out with like research about the harmfulness of certain drugs, and it clearly shows that things like heroin and alcohol are extremely dangerous, and then a whole bunch of things are really just not that harmful. There's a couple of things about that graph. Like one, of course, it's very, you know, it gives a very clear message that the law has little to do with the actual harmfulness of these drugs. On the other hand, I think it's very interesting that this graph is very often showed as like a, look, this is, you know, certain drugs are not that harmful at all. Whereas the conversation should be about, you know, not only about the harms, but about sort of like benefits too. Why doesn't the graph show, you know, the graph shows that LSD is not that harmful, things that it helps people to quit smoking or change their life around or just have an awesome experience are not part of the graph. It's funny, it's like our whole conversation about drugs is so determined by the fact that so many of them are illegal.
If you just look at the wording YouTube uses in their rules, it talks about drug abuse, for example. Drug abuse has become synonymous with drug used for fun. A positive angle towards drugs is simply not allowed. In other wording, YouTube says it doesn't allow your video if it encourages acts that have an inherent risk. But that wording would even not allow cheering for the Olympics.
Even when we do things for fun, like skiing, there's a certain risk involved.
Dude!
Whoa! We live in a world where basically ski lifts have been made illegal, ski helmets have been made illegal, skis themselves have been made illegal, and cops basically bust down the door of ski manufacturers, arrest everybody inside and tell them they're criminals because they work in this criminal enterprise, and people who ski, you know, are stupid for doing something so dangerous. Why would you go skiing? These substances have been made illegal on completely false pretenses, like MDMA makes holes in your brains, or LSD makes you think you can fly, or marijuana makes you makes black people want to fuck white people and white girls. It's like, it's so odd, and it's so funny if you go back. It's funny and horrible if you go back to like some of the like beginnings of Prohibition and you look at the arguments that were used to make all this stuff illegal. Maybe like somewhere in the beginning there was like a legit concern about like, hey, this is, you know, a substance that's like a little odd that we don't know about, you know. Modern medicine had just been invented, and then it devolved into this whole system in the 60s and the 80s and right up until now that has well, basically caused that it's even hard to like even talk about it and even just show it. There's no real reason for these things to be so illegal as they are right now, and it's what has happened is that there's hardly any other system available. There was this drug a couple of years ago here, 4FA, which is like it's sort of like MDMA, but a little bit different, less cuddly, I would say. And the government wanted to do something about it, but the only tool they had to control this drug was make it fully illegal. Not to even have it available for like a small group of people who want to try this out, not available in a certain store that you have to be a member of. It's like we have a system in place here in Holland to own a gun. It's possible if you really want to. Like, we're definitely not the United States or Switzerland, but if you want to own a gun for sports, there are certain regulations that you would have to go through and courses you have to follow and all that stuff. And you will be able to own a gun in a peaceful country like the Netherlands, but if you want to own one ecstasy pill, there's no legal way to do that. There's no system in place that can replace that, and that's something that we should all work on. That being said, it's something I have worked on, and I know that there haven't been like a bunch of channel updates lately, and I sort of want to show you what's going on. If you want to make money through YouTube, it's nearly impossible. So I just have to do things on the side, and then before you know it, life just happens. Before you know it, you're just sort of working, and that's something just that I kind of want to show you. Like, what have I actually been up to? There was this really awesome thing that happened like a month ago. So I got invited to be on this podcast, Pod Save the World, by the creators of Pod Save America. It's Obama's former speechwriter, who's like a gigantic hero of mine, because he has written so many words that inspired me so much about how to create a better world, how to be like an active citizen, how to do good in the world, you know. I was invited to be on that show to tell about how wonderfully weird some Dutch drug policies are.
Please give it up for Thijs Roos.
Luckily, my dad made a few shots. Here's a snippet from the podcast. There's a link in the description.
So commercialization is really wrong. And what happened with opioids, with just doctors keeping on prescribing them, is also really bad.
Right.
So if you go into Amsterdam here, yes, there will be a couple of obnoxious signs here and there, but it's illegal for them to advertise. Coffee shops cannot advertise. I think another thing you can really learn from us is I think we can talk about it a little bit more openly. We have this show in the Netherlands, again, taxpayer funded, where kids basically do drugs on television.
And the purpose of the show is?
It's just it's to start a conversation about it.
Okay.
It's like, it's such a taboo, and one of the reasons that the drug war can actually basically keep on going on is that nobody really wants to talk about their drug use, right? It's like, it's something private. You hide it from your parents. You don't talk about it at work. And so the only image that we have of drug users are junkies, you know, even though all the statistics show that, you know, a large part of you has used them. And, you know, I would think, you know, we're normal people, are we not? But that's something that I hope. But that's something that we hardly ever talk about, just regular experiences, positive experiences about it.
Right.
And that gives that one-sided image that also just keeps that a system that doesn't work just there.
Right.
Yeah. My parents, for the past sort of 3, 4, or 5 years, would read like some of my articles online or in papers, or would see me on TV, and in general, well, not necessarily not approved, but just didn't understand what was going on with me. I think they sort of were afraid that I was just basically on drugs for the past 5 years or something like that. And, you know, they want to be proud of their son, but then the whole neighborhood asks like, "Hey, so what's Thijs doing with that whole drug thing?" It's like they were weirded out by it. So I invited them to this whole to the podcast, to the taping of the podcast, in like a fucking full theater. It's mind-blowing as fuck. And so that was good. They finally saw that I'm you know, not a lunatic, and you know, that actually some of the things I say hopefully make sense to some people.
Then, about the channel. I started this almost 3 years ago with all these great intentions.
This is Controlled Substance, a YouTube channel about drugs.
But I can't even remember how many times I tried to start certain things and then not being happy about it.
There is a way to interact with cops while on acid, and there could be a get out of jail free card waiting on the other end.
But some of the material is fun enough to release, so that's still gonna happen.
What do you
What a
mean?
rock star, ladies and gentlemen.
Me.
Such a rock star.
Legalizing drugs. Are you for it?
Am I for legalization of drugs?
Yeah.
Well, look, I am for cognitive liberty, and I am for the judicious and responsible use of any and all tools that amplify the human experience.
And then at a certain point, I just sort of had to shelf my whole life because I was going on a trip with my girlfriend.
Nice.
We went to the United States for 3 months.
Laat eens even zien. Waar is die? Oh, wacht.
Oh, daar.
Kom maar,
Wil je de bus even zien? Wil je de bus zien? And nowhere is that change going to be as profound as here in Humboldt County. It's one of the perks of my work, I guess. You can do it anywhere. And you can switch it off anywhere. And now we're back. And then I wanted to reboot the channel. And then we find a whole group of people who want to work together and like start sort of like a new company. And so it's like, okay, fuck it, let's do that. So now actually this says for rent. This is Yara, this is our company mascot. Hey Yara! Hey Jaartje! Did you find a sticky? Did you find a stick? And now the whole office where actually I wanted to tape like a whole bunch of shows, we're actually moving out. So it's so weird how quickly life can sort of change and do things. But all these stories that I still have on my computer, we're now just running through them all again and seeing like which ones we should release, which is like the drug courses, Drugs 101. We were just very unhappy with the cartoon. We thought it was just too frivolous to have a cartoon in there.
MDMA makes Buzzy feel fuzzy in a wonderful way.
I don't know. I guess the moral of the story is, like most YouTubers, I don't know what I'm doing. Nobody knows what they're doing. And then our little niche is to operate in this field about talking about illegal substances and how they change your reality. I would say just stay tuned because there's so much material I have that I need to do something with. Right, Jara? Jaartje? Ja. Ja. Doei, Jaartje. Jaartje, zeg maar doei. Zeg maar doei. Zeg maar doei.